it going? Welcome back to the last day of CAC. This week has been so much fun. It's been such a party. Let's do a little recap. So, day one, we jumped all the way back to the beginning. With Adam and Eve, we learned that even when we mess up, even when we reach up, God is right there next to us, and He loves us and forgives us anyway. And then we jumped on the ark with Noah and all the creatures of creation and learned that God is always covering us, and He's always protecting us, and He's always making a way where there seems to be no way. And then we sailed right into the great city in the Tower of Babel and learned that God gives us gifts sometimes. And the gifts that He gave those people in Babel is the gift of language. And every language can sing God's praises. And then yesterday, we jumped into the great escape where we saw God protecting His people once again and leading them out of Egypt and into freedom. It was just so awesome. And today, our last day of camp, we are super pumped because we're jumping into a brand new adventure. We are leaping giantly into the giant, and it's gonna be so much fun. But guys, before we get into the story, you know what we gotta do. We gotta call for Mr. Matt. You guys ready? One last time on our last day of camp, all together, let's call for Mr. Matt. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Mr. Matt! Mr. Matt!
Oh, I can hear you, I can hear you. You were calling my name, you don't have to yell. I was right here. I live down here. Anyway, it's great to see everybody for our final last day of camp. It's been such a pleasure to sing with you all week. You've sang so great and so loud that I can hear you all the way from home, from here, online. And like I do every day, I'm going to teach you today's song. Those of you who were part of the giant year of Creative Arts Camp might remember this one. The song is God Makes a Way. Now the culmination of the giant story is the showdown between David and Goliath, between God's people and the Philistines. Goliath, of course, was a big, giant, a huge man, a tough guy, and no one wanted to face him. But the Israelites called out someone unlikely, someone who was much smaller in stature, someone named David. And David, compared to Goliath, was quite weak and lowly in stature. And one of the big takeaways from this week is this: God uses the weak. God uses weakness to show His strength. So God worked through David the lowly to defeat Goliath. Spoiler alert, sorry if you didn't know the answer, but you were going to learn it sooner or later. And all that is illustrated in this song that goes, God Makes a Way. Like always, I'm going to teach you the song. If you don't remember the words, they're right there. So, as usual, I'll sing a line. You from home, sing it right back to me. The song goes like this. God makes a way out of no way. Nothing's impossible for Him. Your turn. God makes a way out of no way. Nothing's impossible for Him. Again. God makes a way out of no way. Nothing's impossible for Him. And it goes on. He conquers the giants. His power He shows. He frees His people through unlikely heroes. Let's try that part. He conquers the giants. His power He shows. He frees His people through unlikely heroes. One more time, let's put what we learned together. God makes a way out of no way. Nothing's impossible for Him. He conquers the giants. His power He shows. He frees His people through unlikely heroes. And then, pointing the way to Jesus, our true King, our true King. Let's do that last part one more time. Pointing the way to Jesus, our true King, our true King. Let's put that whole thing together. And if it's a lot of song really fast, don't worry, you can look at the words right there. Everybody, 1, 2, 3. God makes a way out of no way. Nothing's impossible for Him. He conquers the giants. His power He shows. He frees His people through unlikely heroes. Pointing the way to Jesus, our true King, our true King. work, everyone. Now that was a good rehearsal, that was good practice, but we gotta get Chels back and let's do the whole thing with the full band. Come on back, Chels. Boom.
Whoa. Hey guys, it's time to sing our song.
I think it is, you ready?
All right, make sure the lyrics are right up here. If you need any help, let's do it.
Great singing, everybody. Thanks for learning that song super quick and singing it with your whole heart.
That's awesome.
And now that we've got our song out of the way, it's time to go to our craft. And we have a special person doing our craft today.
Matt.
Someone we're going to cut to
Matt.
right now because there's nothing
Matt.
else.
Matt.
Yes? Yes?
You know, guys, you would think on the last day of camp, maybe
Maybe
he'd get it right.
I forgot again.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go to sleep back down here where I sleep always.
Let's say goodnight, Mr. Matt.
Bye,
Good night, Mr.
guys.
Matt. Let's dive into our film, guys.
Out of the dust, the children of God were made. And out of the tiniest of seeds, a tree came forth, the tree of life, giving the knowledge of good and evil. From those children and tree, we are shown hope through the smallest beginnings. Our story begins in a desert place, the land of Judea, where the smallest of hope began. A woman called Hannah had a deep sadness. She lived with her family in the desert. Her home was lovely, and she loved her husband, and he adored her. Hannah had all she could hope for, except for one thing. She could not have children.
Hannah, why won't you eat? Why are you so sad? Isn't my love worth 10 sons?
I love you, beloved, but my heart longs for a child of our own. The women at the well mock me, and I long for our own son.
Each night, Hannah prayed, asking God to give her a child.
Lord, if you look upon me, your servant, and give me a child, the child will be yours all the days of their life.
The Lord heard her cry and answered her prayer. Hannah would have a son, but not just any ordinary boy. He grew from a babe to a boy and eventually a prophet. He would be a prophet, God's messenger to his people.
Mama, I want to play and be just like the other children. Maybe I'll be a carpenter or a shepherd.
Samuel, I made a promise to God that you would belong to him in all that you do. Go and be of service to Eli, the priest of our temple. You will now be among the prophets and live in the temple.
Samuel grew up in the temple and soon was a young man.
Eli, why do you call me? It's late in the night.
I have not called you. Go back to sleep.
Samuel, wake.
Eli, what do you need? Why do you wake me with your voice?
You're having night terrors. Return to sleep.
Samuel.
Eli, I still hear you. You keep calling me.
Samuel, the voice must be God. Next time, listen and pray. Say to God, speak, for your servant hears.
The Lord called out to Samuel once more.
Wake.
And this time, Samuel said,
Speak, for your servant hears.
From that day forth, Samuel became the voice of God, sharing God's mercies and hope for God's people. Not only would he share God's news, but Samuel would guide kings, for without the voice of God, humanity finds itself lost. Samuel would be God's messenger. Samuel grew in stature and became the voice of God to the people. The people came to Samuel to speak on their behalf.
Samuel, we're hungry, Samuel. Samuel, help us. Give us some food. We're starving. The people are starving.
God hears your cry and will provide for his people.
In the distant lands, other tribes and people lived and saw that the God of Israel was good and cared for his people. They also knew God was powerful, which made other tribes fearful. The fiercest of the tribes, the Philistines, began to grumble.
The God of Israel gives generously to his people. Aren't the Jews the people who were once slaves? How were they freed from Pharaoh?
Why, yes, their God conquered Pharaoh by bringing many plagues to Egypt. Their God even parted the Red Sea, allowing his people to escape.
We must conquer the Jews and their God. We do not want the same curse of the plagues to come upon us, and certainly we do not want to be their slaves. We need a plan.
Their God remains in an ark. Simply sneak into their camp and steal the ark. Then we will possess their powerful God, and he will serve us.
And so the Philistines, in their desire to control God, snuck into the Israelites' camp and captured the ark. When the Jews awoke and realized the Philistines had stolen the ark, the people ran to Samuel.
Samuel! Samuel, our God has been taken away from us. We have been conquered by the Philistines. What shall we do?
Samuel thought and prayed.
We must take our ark back. We need someone to lead us. Tell God we need a king just like everyone else.
We need a king that is powerful and who will protect us from our enemies.
The people of Israel did not need a king, God was already their true king. Nevertheless, Samuel spoke with God, and God gave the people what they wanted. God knew the people would not be satisfied or come to know God as their true king without showing them the way.
Samuel, tell the people they will be given a king, not the true king, but a king which they desire.
God has heard your cries and will appoint Saul, a very handsome and strong man, as your king.
The people cheered and were pleased. Long live the king! Little did they know that Saul would in fact show himself to be a king who would lead in fear and jealousy, much like Pharaoh. He would be known as the king with a dark cloud overhead. As the days continued under the reign of Saul, the enemies of God began to surround the Israelites. Samuel prayed and pleaded with Saul to follow God's lead.
Saul, you must gather our troops and follow God's lead against the Philistines. They have taken the ark, the place in which God dwells.
No. We are safe here in our land. Our enemies are far away and have no power here.
My lord, we have sent out our scouts, and the Philistines mock God and are beginning to move in on us.
Samuel, you always bear such sad news. It's not good for my temper. Only come to me with jokes from the villages. The people always have problems. I want to hear happy stories.
Saul, you are king of God's people. You must listen to their cry and to the desires of God. We are surrounded by our enemies.
Oh, Samuel, you take your job all too seriously. Why don't you take some sweets and have some grapes? That will cheer you up. Return tomorrow with better news, happier news, maybe some jokes.
In those days, to keep Saul calm, Jonathan, the son of Saul, brought his best friend David to court to play calm music during the days of the Philistines.
Jonathan, I hear of the enemies gathering closer. We must do something about this. The Philistines have stolen our most sacred ark. Surely you can speak to your father.
I will try. He angers so quickly and does not listen. He only wants the spoils of the land, happy tales, and to be admired.
I am hearing from the shepherds. The Philistines are drawing near.
Let me speak with my father and see what I can do. Father, may I speak with you?
Yes, my son. What have you to say?
It's about my friend David.
The little harp player?
Yes, my best friend.
Go on.
You see, Father, David is a son of a shepherd, and they wander beyond our camp with their sheep. Reports are coming from the shepherds that the Philistines are gathering and moving closer to our camp.
Nonsense! The Philistines have what they want, the ark. And they seem perfectly satisfied. Now, be a good boy and bring me more grapes.
Father, I am serious, and David would not lie to me. He is my best friend. There are rumors that the Philistines have a giant, a man larger than any tree or mountain. The Philistines use the giant to conquer people throughout the land.
A giant? That is impossible. David must be telling you stories. You know, those shepherds, they become lonely and make up tales.
Father, David would not lie, and I have heard the same stories myself. The people in court are talking. You are the king. You must help your people.
Enough! You are beginning to sound like Samuel. There is no giant and no enemies upon us. Now, tell me about the people in villages who love me. The ones that call me hero.
Jonathan, Samuel, and David went to bed that evening praying for Saul to not be hardened like Pharaoh and listen to God's direction. The sun rose the next day, and with it brought grave news.
Saul, the Philistines are upon us. They have surrounded us now for 40 days. They have a giant with them called Goliath.
Why didn't you wake me sooner? Wait! Did you say a giant?
Yes, a giant. A man larger than any tree or mountain in our valley.
Gather all men of wisdom, our warriors, priests, and prophets.
Priests? Warriors? King Saul, let us gather in prayer and seek the wisdom of the Lord.
No, I am king, and I will say how we will defeat those pesky Philistines and their giant. Servants, bring me my clothes.
Soon the news spread throughout the land. God's people were surrounded by their enemies.
Jonathan, we are surrounded by the Philistines, and they mock us. Let's do something.
My father has gathered Samuel, all the men of wisdom, warriors, and prophets to defeat the giant.
I will pray. We must turn to the God who created the heavens and the earth.
David, I wish there was more I could do. I must leave now. My father is calling me to court. Please pray.
David gathered his harp and left to the fields to be with the shepherds. From the fields, the fires of the Philistines could be seen. David and his brothers prayed, and soon Samuel heard from God.
Let us gather our entire army and defeat the giant before us.
My men won't fight. They say the giant will crush them in just one step.
We have no power over the ark or the Philistines. We can do nothing.
I wish there was more I could do.
No, not my son. Send word out to the people. Tell them whomever is willing to take down our enemy, I will reward them, and they will become the heir to my throne. Samuel, send a message out to the shepherds. They are tough men, capable of defeating lions, bears, and wolves. Surely there is a man who will be enticed by my throne.
I will pray and seek out a warrior, my king.
Samuel prayed and listened for God. He soon spoke to Samuel in his dreams.
Samuel, seek the son of Jesse, the least likely. The one who will show the foolishness of man is God's wisdom.
The next day, Samuel went to the fields and sought out the sons of Jesse, seeking the chosen one.
Shepherds, I seek one of Jesse's boys.
20 shepherds stepped forward.
I seek one who is willing to go against the giant.
All the shepherds, except for one, stepped back.
Are you David, the harp player in court? Are you willing to defeat the giant and return the ark to our camp? Are you the one? The smallest and youngest of you all?
The shepherds remained in silence, with their heads bowed. David stepped forward, and the Spirit of God came upon him.
Here I am. I am not afraid. I know the God who goes before me put the stars in the sky, created the heavens and the creatures of the earth. We have a God who has defeated those who wish to keep us captive.
You are the chosen one.
Samuel returned to Saul with David, the only one willing to go before the giant. When the sun rose, the people gathered on the battlefield.
Samuel, is David truly the only one willing to face the giant in all my kingdom? Will not another shepherd face the Philistines? Surely there is one larger in stature and one who is able to actually wear armor.
David is the chosen one. Out of Jesse's shoot, our true king will come. David will defeat the giant.
Now, David, I know you play the harp, is it? Have you ever used a sword or bow and arrow? What do you propose you will use to defeat such a giant?
If our God is for us, who can be against us? Our God freed us from Pharaoh, gave us hope through the rainbow, and made every living creature. I have all I need to defeat Goliath.
A rock and a sling? David, if you defeat this giant, someday you will sit on my throne and have the hand of my daughter. This I promise.
David stepped out onto the battlefields. For miles, you could see the village surrounded by the Philistines, mocking Saul and his people.
Samuel, are you sure about this? What will we do once the giant has defeated David? Shall I call upon my warriors to shield us to safety?
Trust in the Lord. He has chosen David, the unlikely, the smallest of men, to bring down the giant.
Jonathan, prepare the troops to protect us and guide us out of the kingdom upon David's death.
David stepped onto the field and approached Goliath. The Jews and Philistines cheered and laughed at the sight of David.
Is that a child or a man-child? It's just so small.
Surely Saul did not send out a boy. Look, he's wearing his white shirt. Must be surrendering. Where'd you get that? The surrender store?
The people cheered and laughed at David and his stature. But David remained steadfast and prayed.
Surely the God of Moses, Abraham, and Isaac will be among us this day.
Do not fear, for I am with you. Out of your line, the true king will come. One who will be just, kind, and full of mercy. One who is a true servant king.
David walked onto the battlefield of poppies and searched the field.
What does the boy search for? Flowers? Soon you will be covered in the poppies of this flower field. I'm gonna squash you like a bug.
In that moment of laughter, David rose and shot a stone directly at the giant. The giant fell, and the earth shook. The people fell silent. David approached the giant with no fear, but trust in God.
What has happened? Jonathan, go out and see. Our enemy has been defeated?
David approached the giant and stood right on his belly.
The giant has fallen, and we have once again been set free.
The crowd gathered around and soon realized the giant was no longer a threat because he was dead. The people cheered and lifted David up, and the people began to praise David. Saul watched from a distance while the people cheered. Saul, in his jealousy, desired to exile David, but soon realized the people loved David. Saul would keep David close, but only out of fear and envy. Soon, David would be crowned king himself, as the prophet declared, out of Jesse's shoot, the true king will soon appear. David was a good king, but like the kings that came before him, he too became just like them. Soon, he no longer listened to God. He wanted to be God and rule on his own. As the story goes, we see the people, just like Adam and Eve, hide until the giant is defeated. We too hide when we forget we have a true king who has conquered death and the devil, putting himself rightfully back on his throne. A true king reigns and has already come. His name is Jesus.
Whoa, guys, there was so much happening in that film, right? We learned that Hannah really wanted to have a baby, but she couldn't have one, and so she prayed to God, and God gave her a baby, and she named him Samuel. And Samuel would grow up to be this amazing prophet, this messenger of God, who would find our hero for our story, David, someone who was super unlikely, someone who no one would think would be the hero of such a big, epic story. But here we are in the middle of the desert, and we have David, and he's got his slingshot and his 5 smooth stones, and with the faith that God gifted him, he uses that faith and he uses those stones to topple the giant, to defeat Goliath. What an epic story! So many things happening, guys. Well, now that we've done a little recap there, I think it's time to jump into our scripture with Miss Jackie. Let's hop on over and see what she's got.
Hey everybody, it's day 5! Can you believe it? It's been 5 whole days. Well, I am really excited to share this day 5 verse with you. And this day 5 verse has to do with the theme of the day, which is the giant. So this verse is from Samuel, and let's see, it's Samuel 16:7, and it goes like this. For the Lord sees not as man sees. Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart. Well, instantly, I think about the old saying, don't judge a book by its cover. So, who here has ever heard that old saying? I have. And you know what? I think that it's a really great saying. Some of my favorite books are really old and raggedy looking, and you know, might look like they might need to be thrown out in the trash, or they might just kind of look like something that isn't very special. But when you open up that book and you read the words and you know, you enjoy the story, it's a really special thing. So God works in very unexpected ways, in little ways that maybe you or I wouldn't necessarily notice or expect it. God is searching for us always, and instead of just looking at how we might appear on the outside, really the thing that God is looking at is our heart. Can you go like this? Let's see. Yeah. Can anybody see what that is? It's a heart. This is me sharing my heart with you today on day 5.
Thank you so much, Miss Jackie. That scripture was awesome. I so love it. Guys, now it's time to jump into our arts and crafts section with Miss Avery, and she's got a super fun one for us today. It's gonna be so great. Let's head on over and see.
Hey campers, I'm excited to do some more crafts with you today. I love the story of David and Goliath. I think it's amazing, the faith of David to step up and use his slingshot against a giant. So insane. So what you guys are going to do today is you're going to make a super duper simple football. You can hang up the puppet or printout that Chelsea included in your box of Goliath and use it to try and hit him in the head and see how many paper footballs it would take you to hit Goliath. Okay? So that's one option for your craft for today. The other option, which you can do both, is you're going to make a friendship bracelet. Now this one is super fun. It's a fishtail, and we are doing this in honor of David and Jonathan's friendships. So let's get started. Take a regular piece of paper and fold it in half like a hot dog. Open it up and fold each side in toward the middle. Fold it along the middle again. Take the bottom corner and fold it up to make a triangle. Then fold that triangle up to make another triangle. Keep folding triangles until you get to the end with just a square left. Take the corner of the square and fold it in, so you have what looks like a pyramid. Then tuck the edge of the triangle into the thickly folded triangle. To flick the football, rest it on its point with a straight edge facing you. Use your pointer finger to flick the football and aim as best as you can for Goliath. To make this friendship bracelet, you want 4 colors of string. Line up the ends of your strings and fold it in half. Make a knot at the halfway point, leaving a loop so that you can use it to tie your bracelet on your wrist at the end. Tape the loop down on the table. Separate out your colors. For instance, I moved one of my white strings to the right side and the other white string to the left. Then I moved the red strings, the orange strings, and the yellow strings so that I had one of each color on each side. Take the string that is on the outside of the right side, which for me is the white, and bring it over to lay in the inside of the left. Then take the same color from the other side and bring it to the right. Repeat with the next color. So I took the red from my right side and brought it over to the inside of the left side. And then I took the red from the left side and brought it over to the inside of the right. You are going to repeat this process over and over. You always want to start from the right side, and it's best if you can keep your colors in the same order so that your pattern is consistent. If you mess up what colors you choose, it's quite alright. It won't ruin the bracelet. It might be easier to hold the 2 sides in each hand. Notice how each time I move a string over to the other side, I run my fingers through the strings to make sure they don't get tangled. As you get further along, you can measure to see if you've made it long enough to go around your wrist. Once it's long enough, take the tape off and have someone else tie your bracelet on your wrist. You can cut off any extra string too.
Oh guys, what an amazing craft of Miss Avery. I made my little paper football. Let's see if I can aim it right about there. No good. It's all good though. Guys, what an amazing craft. What an amazing day of camp we've just had. We've learned so much. We learned that God makes a way out of no way with Mr. Matt. It was so much fun. And then we got into our shadow puppet film and we learned this huge story about David and Goliath and all the backstory too with Hannah and Samuel and where David came from and moving into the camp and facing Goliath head on. And then we got into our scripture with Miss Jackie. It was so nice to see her one last time, wasn't it? It was just so good. And then we had our craft with Miss Avery. We made our paper footballs, our friendship bracelets. Those were super fun. Guys, what a day it has been. What a week it has been with all of you. And I'm so happy that we got to spend this time together. So, the last time, let's say one little prayer. Dear God, thank you for being with us and protecting us and covering us. And thank you for gifting us faith and helping us to face our giants. In your name I pray. Amen. Well guys, I've got one last surprise for you. You saw her in the beginning and I'm bringing her back now because it's the last day of camp. Mel, come on out here.
Hi guys! So much fun. I had so much fun making all the crafts this year. Miss Avery was awesome.
So good.
Well, if you guys want to keep on having lots of fun with us, in September, Chels is going to be sharing more adventures, more activities, and more ways to learn about God's love. What more could we want?
So come hang with me in September. And have a great summer.
Bye!
Topples the giants. almost there.